This podcast is not sponsored or supported by any business or organization. The views reflected on these podcast episodes are my own. Please be aware I am not a medical expert, travel agent, or any other kind of expert. Hey everyone! Welcome to the Eat, Explore, Love podcast. I'm Ashley. This podcast is based off of my blog of the same name, Eat, Explore, Love. It talks about the unique challenges in traveling around the world when you have celiac disease. Due to sort of popular demand, I decided to also record a podcast to delve a little deeper into my travels and the lessons learned along the way. Welcome back to another episode of Eat, Explore, Love. This week's episode is all about connecting to your history. I'm not just talking about your personal history, but the history of your ancestors. In school, my two favorite subjects were history and English. In English, I got to read stories and dream about an alternate reality. But in my history class, I got to be grounded in reality. My greatest strength and my downfall has been my power to empathize with others. In history class, I was never studying for the test. I was trying to learn about the people of the time and the circumstances they were in. I would be inspired by their strength to do better for themselves and future generations. I have a tremendous amount of respect for those that came before me, and this definitely contributed to my desire to go to Europe one day. I wanted to step on the same soil my ancestors did. I wanted to take it all in. I wanted to pay my respects to the sacrifices they made, hoping for a better life. Their choices and their luck in being able to accomplish their goals set up my generation for a better success than they could ever even dream of. Growing up, when people asked for my heritage, I always responded that I was half Irish, half Italian. Though according to Ancestry.com, I'm a little bit more of a mutt. On my mother's side, there's a little bit of Hungarian, German, and English along with the Irish. On my father's side, it's pretty much 100% Italian. Though on 23andMe they found a little bit of Greek in there too, but my research hasn't gone back far enough to be able to find that connection just yet. I've been to Budapest and traveled throughout the UK, and those journeys will come in future episodes. I'm in the midst of planning my trip to Germany and to Greece, but when I knew I was moving to Italy, I knew there were places I needed to go visit to see where my father's ancestors came from. One of the cities we emigrated from on my father's mother's side is Genoa, or Genova if you're in Italy. It's not exactly the easiest journey to get from Verona to Genoa. It takes 2 trains with a layover in Milan. Unfortunately, on my journey, there was a major delay in Milan, and I'm still waiting for the refund for my train ticket. But by the time I got to Genoa, my time there was going to be incredibly limited. In August, Italy is not exactly the best place to go and visit because everyone is essentially on vacation. And it's so hot, it feels like you are walking into an oven. When I finally got to Genoa, it was incredibly hot and it was so difficult to get taxis. So I pretty much had to walk anywhere I wanted to go and walk some more. I took a tour through the city, and if I understood it correctly, it doesn't seem like it has built itself back up fully since World War II. The tour was only showing us a 1 block radius, and I don't feel that I learned that much. Other than the government didn't really feel it was necessary to put the appropriate funds into this what could be a lovely beach town and bring it to a similar glory of Cinque Terre or the Amalfi Coast. Once the tour was done, I walked up incredibly steep hills in order to get to a pizza shop that had gluten-free options. I felt like I was climbing Mount Everest. By the time I finally got to the pizza shop, I had done so much climbing. I thought I was either going to get sick or pass out. The heat was making everything absolutely worse. So after climbing for what felt like my life, I got to the pizza shop, put in my order, just to find out that it was closed and would not open until I was having to be on the train back to Verona. So I got in my 10,000 steps for the next few months as I went back down the many hills I had just climbed up to go back to the train station. Luckily, in Italy, McDonald's has gluten-free burgers. So, making my train by the skin of my teeth, I had my first fast food burger in years, and it was incredible. Now, I'm sure many of you are listening to this, judging me, saying, why didn't you just grab a taxi? Well, folks, there were no taxis. And if you go to certain towns or cities in Italy, taxis are not always easy to find. So you either hope they have public transportation, which many don't, or you need to be prepared to walk. So my trip to Genoa wasn't the spiritual experience I was hoping for. Maybe if I went back at a better time in the year when it wasn't so hot and people were actually there, it would be a little bit different. But at this moment in time, it wasn't the Hallmark movie moment I had built up in my head. To be honest, I'm not 100% sure what I was expecting. I'm not a religious person, but I am spiritual. I grew up in the theater, and there's a culture in believing in spirits. The ghosts of those that came before live within the walls of every theater. Theater's not just a hobby, it's a culture. It's another form of religion. You have your superstitions and things are sacred. You don't say good luck before a performance or talk about the Scottish play. If you know, you know. There are rituals before you go on the stage, and if you are really invested, you'll leave a piece of your spirit on that stage every time you perform. When I was in high school, I did the Diary of Anne Frank, and on my last performance, I had an experience I've heard other performers have where I felt every spirit that had ever left a piece of themselves on that stage come together and support me. It was an out of body experience that can't really be explained and can only be understood if you've gone through it yourself. I've never seen a ghost, but I have felt the presence of loved ones supporting me through difficult times and wonderful times. So I suppose that's what I was expecting. My father has told me stories about my great grandmother Nani, who passed away when I was just a toddler. He's kept her spirit alive for me all these years, and even though I don't really remember her, I think about her all the time, hoping I'm making her proud. Over the years, he's told me enough stories that makes me think I've got my spunk from her. But there are two stories in particular that have stuck with me. One is of her telling him that he better let me speak my mind, to never stifle me. Apparently, she felt I had something special. It doesn't take long for anyone to realize I am certainly not shy about speaking my mind. So I guess I have her to thank for that. The other story he told me was at some point she knew she was going to pass away soon, and she was evidently afraid I would forget her. Well, Nani, I never forgot about you. I think about you often, especially the day I went to Genoa, the city where evidently your family emigrated from. That's probably what was missing for me. I think I was expecting to have her presence there, to see other versions of her walking around the city, but there wasn't. It was just me climbing up never-ending hills, talking to her. I probably would have looked insane if anyone else was around, but I can only hope that if what I believe is true, Her spirit heard me and knows I have never forgotten about her. And not only that, I traveled far and wide to be able to pay my respects to her and her family, our family. There's still a few places I need to visit from where my ancestors came from, but perhaps that will be a slightly better experience. But so far, I'm still searching. For what? I'm not sure. But when I find it, you'll be the first to know. Thank you for joining me this week for all the fun journeys and lessons learned on my big adventure called life. For more information on the different cities discussed, check out the blog posts on eatexplorelove.com, posted every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. If you have any questions or fun stories to share, feel free to reach out at hieatexplorelove@gmail.com. Until next week, remember to eat well, explore the world, and love yourself. See you next time. This episode is produced, scripted, and edited by me, Ashley. Special thanks to Mientka.